think you're going to really enjoy this episode. We're going to look at a few tips on how you can create ambient pads and swells, as well as kind of space-like bleeps and bloops, all from the same chord progression. As always, at the end of this episode, I'm going to upload the project to Patreon. You can download it alongside an ambient piano that you can download in case you don't want to make it yourself. So this week I asked you guys over on my community tab here on YouTube and over on Instagram what you felt the future held for lo-fi music, and I got an assortment of great answers. One of the fantastic answers I got from Mark Spooner is it's not past its sell-by date, it just needs to keep changing to avoid becoming a cliche. And Thato said that lo-fi is an extremely flexible genre, especially lo-fi hip-hop. We're at the point where we're seeing it being separated into subgenres like mellow lo-fi and upbeat lo-fi. And I think I side with you to a large degree there as well. I got some great replies over on Instagram too, with linear music saying that it's going to become more like isochronic tones. Have you guys ever listened to isochronic tonal music? It makes me feel a bit queasy. Am I alone on that? Let me know. Thalo had a great thing to say. I think studying music is heading towards the ambient cinematic side of things. And I think that could be great inspiration for today's episode. By the way, if you want to join the conversation, then head over to that community tab, drop your thoughts. Maybe we can have this as a reoccurring theme in future episodes of Inspired By. So I've got this chord progression I've created with decent samplers, claustrophobic piano, and I've turned all of the pedal noise off. Not that it really matters for this example. For this example, we're in A minor, and it doesn't matter that the chords are quantized for now, nor does it matter their velocities. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take this sample of middle C. A long time ago, I recorded all of the notes from a Yamaha baby grand piano. Don't worry, if you don't have a piano lying around, then you could just head over to Splice, YouTube, Freesound, wherever you get your samples from, and just make sure you've got that key at middle C. I'm going to turn the gain up with this one, and just make it a little bit louder. So I'm going to hit Command T, so that I can create a new track. I'm just going to get rid of my go-to effects rack. I'm going to drag this sample into that new track so it creates a simpler instrument. I'm going to right-click the top tab of that simpler instrument, change it to a sampler instrument. And I don't want this instrument to play from this loud section, so I'm actually going to trim it off and choose like kind of a resonant frequency, maybe around this area here. I'm going to create a loop from this point. I like that, but it's clicking as it goes from end to end. So I'm going to create a crossfade as well. And then to make it more like a pad, I'm going to increase the attack time. About a second is nice. And then about 2 seconds for the release time as well. I'm just going to increase the gain a little bit so it's a little bit louder. And then the first thing I'm going to do is add a reverb. Add the reverb here at the end. We're pretty much going to keep the settings the same. We're just giving this piano a little bit of space. So we're going to take this dry wet down a little bit to about 40%. And I'm going to take the size down. I don't like how it sounds at 100. I'm going to keep it at around 19. We'll keep the decay time where it is. We're also going to add a compressor. This is just going to help better glue that space to the piano. Now we're going to take a copy of the reverb and put it at the end of the chain because we're just going to change these settings. I'm going to increase the dry wet a little bit more this time, and I'm going to turn my decay time right up. I'm also going to change the size one more time. We can just roll off a little bit of these lows. We may as well add an EQ to better combat that. Get rid of any low rumbling. Get rid of some of these muddy frequencies. And then we could just filter from here. Let's just get rid of those ultra highs and add an auto filter. So now what I can do is create an entire group out of this instrument and effects and save it and give it to you guys after. I'm now going to copy down those chords that I had at the top. We can just minimize these instruments now. I'm just going to tweak the EQ a little bit just to get rid of this resonance that's popping up here. And I've added some further macros to better control the reverb and attack times as well. So this is what we have now. I think that's sounding really gorgeous in itself. So what we're going to do is just hit automation and grab the filter. So with the filter selected, we're just going to start from a more low pass space. We can kind of just draw that in as we see fit. So it starts at 652, so I think we should end it at 652 as well, or thereabouts, just so it feels more like a perfect loop. So this is sounding gorgeous on its own, but I also want to show you how you can create more pads from just any sound. I've featured this on the channel before. It's one of my favorite little tricks. So I've got this lovely C-Wash sample here. I'm just going to get rid of the silence at the very start. Drag this down. And loop that over and create a small fade here. So it's kind of seamless. Command J to join all of that together. In a previous episode, I actually stacked a bunch of sounds from birds tweeting to people speaking and C-Wash. In this example, I'm going to keep it very minimal. And we're just going to keep it with the sound of waves. I'm going to add an EQ8. And if you don't know this trick, what you want to do is just use one node at the frequency of 440, which is A on your keyboard. And you're going to create a cue point and then boost that gain up. What you should be able to hear is a tone start to appear. It normally works better if you stack a bunch of EQ8s on top of one another. What I do with the final EQ8 is just roll off any frequencies that I don't like. Awesome, so this works really well. And then I'm gonna freeze and flatten that instrument, keep everything nice and neat. I might turn the gain down a little bit. It's looking a little bit loud there. Awesome, so from there, Shift Command T to create another new MIDI instrument. Just as we did before, we're gonna drop that sample into a sampler device, and we're gonna create another loop. This one's gonna be slightly different. So we're gonna keep it on the middle sustain mode. We're just gonna choose a portion of the sample to start with, and then create a really tiny loop after the fact. So it will look like this and it will sound a bit crazy. It's not really that ambient at the minute, but bear with me. We're going to create another small crossfade. And as we did before, we're going to create a small attack. And a little bit of a release. Awesome stuff. And then we're going to dive into modulation. Going to deselect LFO1 and select LFO2. This gives us a few more parameters for where we can send the modulation. So LFO2, we're going to change it from sine to a ramping waveform. Then we're going to turn the frequency up to 30 Hertz, come down to A. We're going to have this be sent to loop start position. And for now, we can increase this all the way to 100. Now what happens if we look at our sample and zoom out? We've got a random selection of where the sample occurs, which is why in previous examples, I've stacked a bunch of different sounds together. So sometimes you get the sound of birds tweeting, other times you get the sounds of people talking, footsteps, waves, whatever your sample selection is. Today I wanted to keep it really minimalistic with just a different assortment of wave sounds. So you guessed it, we're actually going to take that same chord pattern again. I want this to be brighter, so I'm going to Command A and then Shift up so it's in a higher octave. It's sounding a little bit bright right now, so I'm also going to add quite a wet reverb, change that decay time and bring that size down once again. And then we'll just add an EQ8 if we want to shave anything else off. I really like that. I think that sounds really, really nice. So what we're going to do is add another auto filter. We'll do the same thing once again. We're going to assign this to macro 1. And I'm going to open up automation and just do the inverse of what I can see here. So we're actually going to start from a brighter place and then have it grow darker. And basically just do the opposite to whatever the above automation is doing. And then it's just going to fill up the sound spectrum, make it feel a little bit more organic. Oh, and stupidly, one thing that I forgot to mention is we're still in the key of A. So you want to change your root note from C to A3 here. Now that's going to sound lovely. For this example, I do like to add a little bit of delay. So when that loop occurs, the lovely wash of the white noise will just slip over the bar line a little bit. We can set that to ping pong if we want to have more of a stereo balance. I'm not going to, because we're going to create one more pad, Command D to duplicate that one. And all we're going to do is choose the operator and switch this from a sine wave to white noise. And that white noise will actually set to ping pong, and we'll add an EQ8 to get rid of all of the low rumblings from that white noise. It will be a bit gross to start off with if we listen to that. Doesn't sound too wonderful, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep that off and sweep it off here. Awesome, and we'll just increase the attack and the release time of this white noise as well. And we'll also draw in the gain value of this white noise. We don't want it playing all of the time. So we'll select gain. And I think we'll just have it be drawn up sort of at the halfway mark and at these points here. And we'll just play with that frequency as well on the EQ, just making sure to duck it down towards the end and increase it at the beginning. So again, there's a nice loop there. That's super lovely. I really enjoy that. We can move on now. So once again, we're going to take the top chords, drag them down to the bottom, and I'm going to create a whole new instrument so we can get rid of our rack. I'm going to choose, I think, just the operator. For this example, I remember, I think it was Ned Rush. Shout out Ned Rush's channel for showing some fun kind of randomness in your music. We're going to solo this for now. We're going to have some fun with these chords. Actually, let's change the preset from just the operator to maybe the plastic kalimba. I'm going to create a rule for my music, and I'm just going to choose like 3 nice notes from each of the chords. Let's get rid of that note. Let's get rid of that note. Get rid of these. Get rid of these, and get rid of this one. If they're quite long, I might just separate them like that. These two can play together. These two can end there. Awesome, so this is a weird little rule. I'm going to select all of the notes and bring their velocity all the way down and increase the velocity range. Actually, we don't want them to be silent, so let's pull this up to like 18 and have the velocity range like 30, 40, something like that. And I'm going to change the chance of these notes as well. So with the lowest notes, they're going to have pretty good ratio to be played. The middle notes are going to have a lower ratio to be played. So the highest notes are going to have a 20% chance to be heard. So now our notes sound like this. So very occasionally you hear just one note from these chords. We might add some reverb, but first we're going to add an arpeggio MIDI device. So we're going to take the arpeggiator. Oh, actually, let's take bouncy chords and just change this a little bit. Instead of chord trigger, we're going to do it random once with 6 repeats, I think. So now it will just choose random notes from that sequence. It's maybe got a little bit too harsh of an attack, so I'm just going to increase that a little bit. And as I said, just add a tiny little bit of reverb, and let's just do long tail and see what that sounds like. Awesome, so we've generated this all from pretty much the same chord sequence and this stupid rule that we've been creating along our piece of music. It's actually been really fun. This is what it sounds like so far. Let's turn the sound down, these bouncy notes. All right, so my camera did die, but we're right at the end here, and I want to give my piece of music more of a cinematic feel. So what we can do is take the chord progression from the very beginning, and we're going to implement our strum device, which is available at the Patreon. It's going to take your chords from being these block chords to being these strummed chords. And you can increase the sustain with sustain here, and change the speed of that roll with speed. So I'm going to keep it fairly low, and I'm also going to introduce some reverb here. Awesome, so I'm going to tweak this just a little bit, and then I'm going to come back to show you what we're left with. Just want to shout out Thalo Lo-Fi one more time for giving us the inspiration for today's episode. If you didn't already know, Thalo and I released a track, I think a couple of months now, and we did so with the help of today's sponsor, DistroKid. I release all my music on DistroKid already. See, DistroKid have this tool called splits that allows you to evenly divide the revenue made from your music streams amongst your collaborators. They also have a bunch of tools to help you get on bigger and better playlists. Now, I'm not going to chew your ears off any longer, but if you do want to sign up to DistroKid, then use the link in the description below. You'll get 7% off your first year. So there we have it, guys. Just a few tools on how you can go about creating more ambient cinematic music. And shout out once again to Thalo for the inspiration. Like I said, if you want to join the conversation, then just find that community tab. Let me know what you want to see in future videos as well. And thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.